Before we get started with this episode of the Artists and Emotions podcast, I just want to give a little bit of a trigger warning. This episode contains subject matter such as strong language, depression, thoughts, and attempts at suicide, along with other dark things. If these are things that you are not comfortable listening to or that you think will trigger you in some way, I do not recommend listening to this episode of the podcast. But without any further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Artists and Emotions podcast. I'm your host, Cody Alexander Curtis, and who I have with me here today, I would consider a very, very special guest, because out of all the people I've had on this podcast so far, this is probably the person I have had the least amount of time to know, but is someone who I have quickly gained a lot of respect for. This is Jeremy Mcfarland, and for those of you who don't know, we are both part of a platform called Skills Hub, which was created by Jennifer Hale, who has done a lot of work, but most notably, she is known as Female Commander Shepard from the Mass Effect series. Yeah, Jeremy, how are you doing today?
Oh man, I'm doing good. Just, living through this Louisiana heat. That's about all I got going on.
Yeah, no. What is the temperature in Louisiana right now?
Right now, it is 102 with a heat index of 113. So,
Dang. Okay. That is, yeah. I was going to say, here in Georgia, it's only 92 degrees.
that's a cool front here, man. Like, that's jacket weather.
Yeah, we're basically living over in, like, if we're living in winter over here in Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
But now that I've sort of got you here, Jeremy, first of all, what is your story? How did you decide you wanted to be an actor? And for those of you who don't know, Jeremy he may be new to this, but he's also terrific at it. Like, I'm just gonna throw that out there. Everything that I've seen Jeremy do has done nothing but impress me, but also, as I said before, it's made me gain a lot of respect for you. So where did your journey start, and where has your journey sort of led up to?
I will say that my journey technically started probably when I was 18. I was able to do voices and stuff like that. And, everyone's like, oh my God, you've got a great voice. And I was like, thanks. I don't know what to do with it, but thank you. And then you fast forward to, a marriage, a divorce, 3 kids, and then you get to me losing my job. My wife, Anna, who is essentially my rock, she looked at me and she said, you've always wanted to do this. So by God, you're going to do it. And, I didn't want to argue with my wife. I didn't want to like, but we need, so I ran with it. She told me to take over, and that's exactly what I did. And she told me to chase it, and I am running towards it.
Love that. Absolutely love that. And you've only been doing this for what? The like 5-6 months now?
April, May, June, July. Yeah, so like 3-4 months, 4 or 5 months, something like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it puts it into a weird perspective when you actually start thinking, well, I've only been doing this for a few months and everything's happening, so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the main point. And I have touched on this before, but the fact is if you decide you want to do this, and we are going to get into the mental health aspect of going all in on this industry, but if you have the right tools to take care of yourself and you go all in pursuing this career in this industry, things will start to open up, because hard work beats talent every single day of the week.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, Jeremy, what I am curious, let's say an ideal day, and I'll share mine as well. When you're pursuing this thing like full, what does an average day for you look like when you're going after this darn thing?
Whew. What does it look like? Busy, 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 busy. I get up, I essentially drop my kids off at school, and then I come home and I am either in class learning, or I am doing auditions on either Casting Call Club and
Yeah,
Twitter and stuff like that. So it's busy. I'm an active gym guy, so I have to, fit that in too. Even if it's just 5 minutes, like just got to get that pump real quick, and then you got to get back to it. But yeah, it is constant, constant, constant. Kind of, I don't want to say it's a grind because that puts it to me as a negative, and it's not negative. It's not negative at all. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just busy fun. I guess that's the best way I could word it.
I think that's excellent. And I'm glad that you brought up Casting Call Club because I only recently found out about them. But the amount of auditions and in turn the amount of practice you can get with your voice on that platform, anybody who is an aspiring actor, if even if you don't have a lot of money, if you're an aspiring voice actor, even if you don't have like the best mic setup or the best system or what have you, Casting Call Club is phenomenal, especially if you're a beginner. Because yes, there's a bunch of people on there, but getting practice and learning to have fun just creating characters and putting your voice to work, that is ultimately what Casting Call Club is there for. And it is brilliant. It is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a ton of fun, and like you said, in the beginning, if it will teach you how to audition and let it go. I will say that I have done the bad thing and went back and looked at my audition, and somebody else had done an audition that was close to mine, and they got a star, and I didn't, and I got mad. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Set it and forget it. Just let it go. It's a bird in your hand, and you're like, here you go. So don't go back and look,
Yeah.
guys. Just
I
don't go
think
back and look.
I mean, I'm with you there. Like, don't go back and look. Although I will have a caveat to that because one thing I found, at least for me, that I'm doing now is if I audition for a project on there and the cast has been released, I will go back to. I'll listen to the person who got the role and then go back to my own audition and see if there's any improvements that I can make for the next thing. So there's that. But also, it's just it took me a while to do this, but they give you accessibility to see the other people who are auditioning. Do not look at those.
Yeah.
like
Comparison is the thief of joy. That is 100% true.
literally go in, do your audition, click out, and move on to the next thing. Because
Yeah.
if you can eat yourself up with the amount of people, you could be going up against like 90 to 120 different people who auditioned for the darn thing. And that will mess with your mind like nobody's business. Um, but it's interesting you brought up your schedule. I said I would share mine. So in an ideal world, I'll say like something like today, where I'm not working at Starbucks, which for those of you who don't know, I work at Starbucks as my day job. But what I will do is I will get up and I'm very much with you on the gym thing there. Like working out is the first thing that I have to do in the morning. One of the first things, because first it's administrative, whether that's looking at emails or checking what kind of auditions I have coming up, then going to work out, which I like. Family is the most wonderful thing in the world, but being 27, I am glad I don't have any kids or family right now.
They're a joy, but also at the same time, F these kids, like for real. Like I love my kids. I love them. I would kill for them, but like Jesus Christ. Like take a number, dude. Like
They're always prying for your attention. And I got
oh
a
yeah.
little bit of taste of that because my 10-year-old niece, I love her to pieces, and I have been here for her basically since she was born. But but
It gets
essentially,
rough, man.
yeah, it does. And then there are days where it's just like perfect.
Yeah.
But after I get out of the gym, then it's right on to performance work. It's creating self tapes for being on camera. It's creating uh audition stuff for voiceover work or checking in to see what class I want to sign up for next, and just keeping an eye with what's going on in the industry. Which for anybody who is listening who isn't aware, SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild of America are still on strike, unfortunately. And that's also part of the other reason why, like, it's part of our job is to keep up with this stuff. And it's a lot, and it's a bit of a headache. But this is how we're going to make the world better for everybody in this darn industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the things that they're fighting for, man. It's things that, aspiring actors need to have, covered. The AI, no AI, stuff like that. Like, yeah, this needs to be done.
Yeah. And I'm gonna, if it's all right with you, Jeremy, I'm gonna actually share sort of the exciting news that you told me the other day
Go right
about
ahead.
gaining representation
Mm-hmm.
for
Yes, sir.
not voiceover work, though.
No.
You got representation to be in front of the camera.
Yes, yes, I did, which was a hard left for me because it was just voice acting. That's what I wanted to do. And of course, more classes that I was involved in, they were like, acting, it's acting, it's acting. And I was just like, okay, well, maybe I need to actually just try the acting thing. And, I've read the books, I've read Uta Hagen, I've read, Stanford Meisner, uh, and they're good, but you don't really learn, in my opinion, from a book. You have to do. Um, and so I just kind of went, and I was just like, I'm probably not going to make it. It's like Sarah Craven says, do it like you're not going to book it anyway. And that's exactly what I did. I went in there and I was like, they're going to be like, oh no, dude, you're too short. You're too bald. There's already like 80,000 bald people in Hollywood. We don't need another one. You got tattoos. We don't need any more of those. And so it's all those things, but I did it. And they accepted me, which was wild for me. I was sitting there waiting by my phone. I was like that little girl that just went on a date with who she thought was going to spend the rest of her life with, just sitting there waiting on the phone to ring. He's going to call me. He's going to call me. He's going to say he loves me. And then they did. And then they called me and they were like, "Hey, we find that we can do a lot with you." And I was just like, "Okay, okay, thanks. I'm gonna hang up the phone now. Thank you so much." And I hung the phone up, and I squealed like a little girl. It was the most exciting thing that has happened to me. For someone to say they want you is massive. For somebody that, and I know we'll get back onto the mental health thing, but for somebody that hasn't felt wanted in a long time, for someone to say, "Hey, we want you," that's huge. And then I went to my class on Saturday, and they invited me to the show in December to be put in front of casting agents from Los Angeles, Dallas, Atlanta, New York, and there's two more, and I don't remember where they came from. But it's a competition. I have a scene that I'm working on, and I also have either a monologue or improv that they're going to tack onto that as like a second competition. And so I'm excited. I'm very excited. And when they sent me that email back and they said, you need to be in the show, everyone's on their own path and everyone is on, at their own level, but you have talent. And it's just like, shit, it's like, I never knew, I had the ability to do this. And for someone to tell me you do, and you do it well, it's just astronomical.
Yeah, it is such a great feeling. Like, the thing is, being in this industry, you do kind of need to take validation or criticism and just throw them off of your shoulder as soon as you get them. But when there's a big moment for you inside of this industry and you're pursuing it, it is one of the greatest feelings in the world. And I'm super happy that you were able to get that, because I've said time and time again, like, you have continually impressed me. And you're really good, Jeremy. There's like no other way to say it. You
I
are.
do appreciate it. And flattery will still get you everywhere. I just want you to know that. So,
Yeah. And for me, I've always said that I think those who are new to this industry, who have lived a life completely separate from it, are the ones who ultimately make the most drastic turns and accomplishments in their career. Obviously there's you, and then there's another guest of this podcast, and a buddy of mine named Simon Shee. He's also with me in Georgia, and he's also new to this, and the amount of strides that he has made is kind of like you, Jeremy. Like it's big things, because in my opinion, if you take someone who's basically been an actor their whole life and that's all they've ever pursued, and then you take someone like you or Simon who has this whole other world that they lived before they jumped into acting, it makes your acting so much more believable, in my personal opinion, and it makes just what you're able to put out there in terms of your own storytelling a lot more powerful. And I think that's, once again, can I say I'm surprised? Not really. Can I say that I think it's wonderful? Yeah, absolutely. Especially since, let's be honest, the amount of work that no matter who you are, you have to put into this industry when you get into it, it's
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. And I never even knew it was this much. Like I just thought it was, hey, I'm here, say some lines and yeah, we'll take you, or no, we won't. Yeah, no, it's not that. It is literally getting up every day and pursuing this. It's a job in a job,
Yeah.
but it's fun. All of it's fun.
Yeah.
Unless you make it not fun, then
Yeah.
you need to reevaluate, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
It's yeah. I mean, I've said this a few times now, but it's like, hey, guy goes into the doctor and says, "Hey, doc, this hurts." Doc just looks right at him and says, "Then why are you doing that? Stop." It's for if you love this, you can come off of either a subpar day or a day that just fully exhausts you and want to do it again the next morning.
Mm,
Like it's one thing I should have shared with Jeremy is I had a pretty big audition that I had to put together before we started recording this podcast. It was 5 pages and it took me 3 hours to put that thing together. Um, but still, I absolutely love it. And it's not just like auditions, it's also the network that you have to build. It is the headshots that you have to get. It is building your resume continuously. And most importantly, it's just being a good person at the
yeah.
end of the
Don't be a
day.
dick. Don't be.
Yeah, no. Nobody wants you to be a dick. If you're a dick in this industry, it's not going to serve you.
Well, it will serve you, but it'll serve you out the door, is what it'll do. That's what it'll do. It's not going to serve you any justice whatsoever. So,
Yeah, that's a very very fair point. And to go off of like all of that, the fact that I'm glad that you brought up the fact that you've read all like so many of the acting books but didn't really get that much from them, because I'm someone who is in that same camp. Like I've read a few different acting books, but I find that the books I get the most from is autobiographies where people are talking about their stories and their journey either in this industry or outside it in another field somewhere, or just self-improvement books. Like those things for me, I feel, and of course being on set, because let's face it, being on set or making auditions or working any kind of entertainment based job is the best classroom you're ever going to get.
no, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's I'm trying to put in the words because I don't think there's anything that you can put into words to describe just how much work you have to put in once you get into this industry if you want to stay for the long course. The only thing that you can do is really find out when you are most productive and when your energy is not like in the toilet,
Mhm.
because I mean, for instance, for me, I find that all of that administrative stuff that I mentioned before, emails, sending out submissions for jobs, that kind of stuff, I can do from like 5 o'clock in the morning until 8. But the performance aspect, putting together either voiceover auditions or on camera stuff, I can't really effectively do that until it's probably 11 o'clock in the morning.
That makes sense. That gets you time to get warmed up, woke up, get your voice, warmed up as well. So, I mean, that makes sense. I have found that my peak time is usually about 8 and then forward till about 3. And then after 3, I pretty much just want to go lay down.
Yeah. And then I mean that's the we can definitely talk about burnout when it comes to this, but I think I'm going to save that for when we actually start diving into mental health, because the one thing, and I think I'm actually going to caveat to that right now, because the one thing, if you decide to come into this industry, the one thing you're going to have to accept is it doesn't matter how much you try to avoid it, you are going to get burnt out once, if not multiple times, while you're trying to pursue this darn thing. And you just have to accept that burning out while pursuing this, it is going to become part of your life. It is what it is. Yes, we have to do everything we need to take care of ourselves, whether that is finding a schedule that works, or going to therapy, or doing whatever you need to take care of yourself. You're still going to burn out. Like, there's no helping it. It's coming.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. And there was somebody that I follow on Twitter, and they made a very, very good post, and it was 2 words, or a few words, maybe not 2, but it was like, you can take a break. That's definitely not 2. Anyway, you can take a break. And it's true. You can sit here and you can pound out auditions for 5 days. You can do 500 auditions in a week, and it's going to be bad when you burn out, because your mental mentality of it is it's just not going to be there. Ask me how I know. Getting up every day doing the same thing, and I'm like, I'm not getting any work. What am I doing wrong? And then you start letting your mind take over, and it's like, your mind is a bully. let's just
Yep.
let's just go ahead and say that your mind, you are your own bully. So if you never got bullied in school, you are getting bullied by your own brain. So
Yeah. I mean, we talked about not being a dick in the industry. Let me tell you, if there is one thing that when it comes to trying to get you to work harder and burning yourself out, your brain and your mind is probably the biggest dick, the biggest dick that you are ever going to know, because it does not, as much as you want to rest, a good portion of the time, it will tell you that you are being lazy and you're not going to accomplish anything when you're like, I literally need to go to sleep because I've only slept 5 hours for like the past few days trying to get stuff done.
I believe it was in your mental health workout room where I even said, I gave you my instance of my mind. I've worked in the oil field, I've worked in automotive, I've worked in everything. Everything was non-union. So literally my boss would always come up to me and be like, what are you doing? You need to get this done. You need to get this done 10 minutes ago. And it's like, you live like that for so long, and your mind just kind of melds into that. And yeah, my mind, like the first 2 months of doing this, it was a bitch. And I was just like, I just had to take a week off. I just had to stop. And I was just like, you know what? Nope, 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 nope. I'm done. And I had to evaluate whether this is actually what I wanted to do or not, or if I really just wanted this to be a hobby. And, look where we're at. So yeah.
Yeah, look where we're at. And I'm going to touch on something that I keep touching on when it comes to this podcast, especially pointing to people who are interested in actually making this a career, is the fact that if you sign on to do this, you are signing on to be an entrepreneur. There is no escaping that, because you are your own product. You are the CEO. You are the marketing firm. You are the ad agency and the marketing agency, and you are the resource management. You are literally everything. And that's another reason why mental health in this industry is so important, because if you don't, you're going to burn out, and more than likely you're gonna hate yourself when you do, because you set up so many great things. But the biggest problem is so many people want to accomplish so much in like a 1 year time frame, when it's like, okay, so let's say that you're somebody who gets into this industry and you're like 24 years old and you want to accomplish so much because so many other actors have gotten work and achieved so much success at a very young age. What would happen if you just gave yourself 10 years to just continually improve yourself, to get better at this, to get better at the business side, and got better at the performance side? You will have a career at the end of that 10 years, if not sooner. It's what it comes down to. And
Yeah.
pushing yourself into the ground to try to make it happen sooner is not going to make it happen sooner. It's just going to make you more miserable.
You're gonna eventually hate what you're doing is what's gonna happen. You know, your mind is, you're no good at this. What are you doing? You can't get a gig. Come on, just go get a regular job. Just go do it. And it's like, if you let that voice win, then you're negating everything that you want, you know. The best way that I have looked at it is when you first start the gym, and you might be able to relate to this. When you the
Mm-hmm.
very first day that you walk into the gym, hey, I'm going to be in the gym. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get strong. And you do it for like a month, and you're just every day you're killing it. You're killing it. You're killing it. And then one day you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, I don't want to do nothing. I don't want to do nothing at all. The joy just got sucked out of it because you were just hammering the hell out of it. You have to take it, like you said, you have to take it in strides. You have to, it's not, and I will say, I was one of the ones that I even told my wife, I was like, give me till the end of the year. Give me to the end of the year. I'll have something by the end of the year. I was that guy. I was like, yeah, I just need a year. I just need a year. And then the more that I let that go, and I was like, you know what? If it takes 3 years, if it takes 5 years, it takes 20 years, it takes 30 years. Oh well, this is what I want to do. And you have to stay with that mentality of, you cannot put yourself on a time limit, because in this career there is no time limit. It's
Yeah.
it's constant. Don't put a time limit on yourself ever, because you're doing nothing but undermining yourself, and you're not benefiting from it.
No, absolutely not. And I like that reference to the gym you made because I've there's a lot of stuff I'm rehashing in this episode, but there is a book I keep bringing up, and it is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I don't know if you've read it or not,
I have not.
but essentially James Clear made a book that is all about how habits are not something that you build over the course of a week or a month or a year. Habits, and specifically the habits that will change your life for the better, it takes a lifetime to get them where they need to be. He has this rule that I really appreciate called the 2 minute rule, where you take something like a task, let's say writing an essay for college, and you whittle it down to just the first 2 minutes of things you need to do, like opening up your laptop and opening up Google Docs to start it. Don't even worry about writing. Don't even worry about all the other nonsense you got to do. Just spend that first 2 minutes doing what you got to do. You can you can do 2 minutes. And he also has a story from one of his readers and listeners where they wanted to lose 100 pounds. So they went into the gym, got in there, was only there for like 5 minutes, did like half an exercise, and then left. Did that for 6 months. And then eventually it started compounding to where they wanted to do more. And eventually they lost the 100 pounds they wanted to lose. It's, and that's the way that we should be viewing our careers as actors, is having longevity in this industry, is understanding that if you want to be a truly great storyteller and a truly great actor, it will take your entire life to do it.
Like Sanford Meisner says, it'll take you 20 years to be an actor. You're still
Yeah.
working, but it'll take you 20 years before you actually know everything about acting. And then even then, you still really don't know. That's why you always have to get coaching,
Yeah.
because everything
It's
changes.
uh, yeah, it's one of those things where it's either coaching or a new class or something else. It's I know for me, I'm also not I'm not one of the actors who believes in like taking classes every single month and taking a super multiple of them, because in my personal opinion, taking, let's say, 5 different classes over the course of a month, 2 months, how much of that are you actually, how many of us were in high school and college and taking a super workload and remembered everything that we learned?
You're lucky to get 10%.
Yeah, and it is the same thing with acting. Like, I know people who do multiple classes every single week, every single month, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm glad that they have those opportunities. I'm not that kind of actor though. For me, I am the kind of actor where I look to take a class every single month, but after that class is done, I like to give myself a few weeks to another month to fully implement everything that I learned from that class. And for me, I found that in terms of my method and my technique for how I do things, it is something that works for me. And once again, when it comes to mental health, that is why comparison in this industry is a gigantic issue. Because if you're going to be truly happy and have longevity in this, you can take as many technique classes as you want. You can take as many classes as you want. But ultimately, you need to find an acting method that works for you. And that method should involve flexibility, where if you are feeling kind of down or sick or something else, you don't feel obligated to put together an audition. You can take some time off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and and I'm kind of that guy that takes a lot of classes, but I'm kind of in sponge mode right now.
Yeah.
So, so I'm taking a lot of different classes, but I will say, going back, kind of piggybacking off of what you said, that you take one class and then you implement over a period of time. What I do is, like, I'll take Crispin Freeman. I took his class, and yeah, I that was the first class that I took, so I was in the hot seat, completely new, and it was terrifying. I'm not going to lie, uh, but it was a lot of fun. And at the end of it, Crispin gave me the advice that I needed to get, and I went on my way. And about 2 months later, it all hit me. Oh, that's that's what he meant when he said to inflict this and not this. Oh, it all made sense. And sometimes you just have to kind of take a step back, analyze it, and realize they're not being mean to you. They're just being honest with you. And honesty and mean are two different things that a lot of people do, they cross a lot of the times. Um, but yeah, you just sometimes have to take time and actually digest what somebody that has been in this for a long time has told you. It's not, they're not being mean to you. They're just helping you. They want you to succeed. And he even told me at the end of it, he was like, "You have a very rural accent." And I was like, "I'm very well aware." And he was like, "There's not a lot of rural jobs that you can get, but I want you to succeed." This is someone that I've never met. He doesn't know me, but he wants me to succeed. And it's just, it's it's moving.
Yeah, it is. And that's the one thing for anybody who has taken a good class, because there are certainly, I'm just going to put this out there. If you feel like the instructor that you are studying with, I don't care how notable they are or not, if you feel like they are abusing you mentally and emotionally, you need to get out of that class right now. Because from all of the mentors and instructors and people who I have worked with, the best ones are always the ones that, although they do have criticism in terms of how you can improve and become better, they always do it through the lens of kindness, and they always want you to be the best version of yourself that you can be for this. And the greatest thing about classrooms, looking embarrassing is just part of the entire situation, and it is a place where you can fail, because guess what, failing inside of a classroom prepares you to succeed for auditions or being on set or like everything else. And if we're going to talk about if we're going to talk about sort of the things that tie into mental health and the things that classrooms have taught us, every time that, at least for me, every time that I go into a new class, I find that there's something new that I'm adding onto to prepare for my auditions or prepare for being on set for something.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Everything builds up and it does help. When I go to Skills Hub and I go to your workout room and then I go to another workout room, everything that I'm doing, I'm taking. I may not honestly, I may not take the whole experience because I it's difficult to take the whole thing with you, in my opinion. But I do take at least, the 10% or the 20% from that room. And I do absorb at least that. And I'm like, okay, well, this is what he told me to do. This is what I need to do. This is what I'm working on. And just go with it that way.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's the other thing about these kinds of things is just building the idea of building a network, especially in younger people's minds, or just getting into this network, has always been pushed as, you got to go up to people and you got to try to build a what I'm going to call a fake relationship with them so you can get out of them. When you spend a few months in this industry, you learn very hard and very fast that building a network in that way is not how it's done. Like,
Mm-mm,
you
no.
building, I mean, it's the same thing wherever you go or in the world of business or what have you. Building a network just means building genuine relationships with people that you want to work with. That's all it is.
Yeah, and when I was getting into this and they told me that, well, you're going to have to network, and I was just like, I'm not good on Facebook. I'm that guy that just dumps memes all the time, and then I was like, but I this is what I want to do, and networking is 100% part of it. So I started a Twitter page of my own, and I'm up to 111 followers, I think it is, and which is weird for me because once again, April. A lot of people that I follow are people from Skills Hub. They are also casting directors and stuff like that. If I ever have a question, I have no, I could send them a message and be like, hey man, blah 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 blah, and they'll give me an answer, and then I can ask them about something in their personal life. And if I go a month without speaking to them, or let's just say 6 months or whatever, and then I see them again, or I send them a message of like, hey man, I got this question, hey, by the way, how's your wife and kids? They're floored. You mean you remember that I have wife and and kids? Like, it's huge. It's huge. Genuine connections get you genuine jobs.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it works. I think one of the best examples that's sort of out there right now is if anybody talks about Christopher Nolan and the sets that he's built. Everything that I've heard about Christopher Nolan and his sets is that it is like repertory theater where he has he builds on it, but he will bring the same people back over and over and over again if he can. And if for any of you who are Christopher Nolan fans, you will know that a good portion of the time, I mean, Cillian Murphy has been in so many darn movies that this man has directed. And it's that's what it's all about, is just trying to build genuine relations. And yet, here's the thing. When you get into it, networking is kind of like building and meeting a new family. And are there going to be rifts every once in a while that may break people apart? Yeah, of course. Like, are there going to be arguments? Of course. But that's just a habit when it comes, not a habit, but it's just a little thing we call being human.
That's what I was just fixing to say. It's still humans that you're dealing with. You're not dealing with machines, or well, not yet. And so everybody, and that's, I guess that's the other thing that I had to remember is they're just people too. They're just people too. And they may not understand something, just like I may not understand something. Does that, make them wrong or anything like that? No, they're just
No,
people. They're just
absolutely
people.
not. I
You
mean,
know,
that's all that's all we are. We're just people.
just
we're
people, man. We
we're
made
just
mistakes.
We make mistakes. Where do we go from here, man? All right, and it's interesting because this is the other beautiful thing I find, not just with voice acting, but it's one of the things that I find has helped me with my mental health while pursuing this career is depending on what kind of role you're auditioning for, depending on what kind of audition you may find, if you read a character breakdown and number one, it's very close to who you are, and number two, you get an audition where said character you're auditioning for is going through some of the same stuff that you are going through, it is very cathartic. Like, I'm not going to say that acting is a replacement for therapy because, guys, if you're going into acting to replace therapy, that's just not a good idea, and don't do that.
No, don't do that.
Acting can be very, very cathartic, especially if it's a role that you connect with on an extremely deep level. Like, I can't count the amount of times that has happened. I mean, even through something as simple as Casting Call Club. Like, because Casting Call Club is putting out so many auditions for people to submit to over and over and over again, you'll be able to find something that you connect with, whether that means that you're a fan of the source material they're making their projects about, or it's an original piece and it's a really compelling character. You will be able to find something that you can connect to. And honestly, that'll just make your performance that much better.
Exactly. And if you can connect on something like that and then you perform it like yourself, letting that ooze out of you, that emotion, that raw emotion, you never know on the other side who would be moved by that also. And to me, that's just as big as, taking yourself and actually putting yourself into the character. The scene that I have to do that I'm working on for the show in December, I feel that character a little bit. I understand that character. There are things that I connect with the character, but when I did my scene and I got to the point where I was getting loud and I was getting violent, everybody in that auditorium got discomfort. You could tell everybody was like moving in their seats and after the scene was over, everyone said, "Yeah, that got uncomfortable quick. That reminded me of my mom and dad." You know, boom. Oh, so you felt that? Yeah, I felt that. That's gold. No, and that's just gold.
Yeah, it's astounding. Now, are you allowed to share what scene you are doing for the show in December?
They haven't told me not to, so I'm hoping I'm okay. I am doing True West, Sam Shepard's True West, scene one, and I am Lee. So I am a drunk, I am a thief, and I am angry all the time.
Yeah, which for any of you who are curious, actor or not, if you've not read True West, pick it up and read it. It is, and not just as a play, but in terms of a work of literature, it is absolutely brilliant. It's such a good show. Which it's interesting that you're doing that and you have such a deep connection to that, because I don't think I've shared with you basically what my go-to monologue is in terms of auditioning for people, if they ask for it. That monologue is the ending confrontation monologue between Biff and Willie Loman from A Few Good Men. Like,
Oh,
Biff's monologue at the end of that show. Uh, if none of you, if there's people who don't know the show, I will say I'm not going to spoil too much. I will just say that it is a very distressing show about it. Speaking of like mental health and trauma, that is basically all that show is about. But it's interesting for me because I first latched on to that particular thing because at my senior year of high school, we actually did Death of a Salesman for our senior show.
oh wow.
And I didn't play Biff, I played Bernard, but one of my close friends played Biff in the show. And ever since the show ended, I thought to myself, I know for a fact that I could play this role given the opportunity. But the closest thing I have is getting and working on and perfecting this monologue. And it is the thing I have brought with me to college. It is the thing that I have submitted for theater and film projects, and a good portion of the time it gets really, really positive results because of it's not just the work that I put into it, but how much I personally connect with not only the show, but with that particular monologue in the show. And from the sounds of it, you have sort of that connection with True West when it comes to what you're doing.
Yeah, I actually, coming from nobody that never knew anything about acting, and then jumping into acting, I had never heard of True West. Apparently, my mom had, because I brought it up to her, and she was like, "Oh my God, I love Sam Shepard so much," and I was just like, "I don't really know who that is, but okay." But do your research, which is what I did. I did my research. I actually have been watching the John Malkovich and Gary Sinise 1984 version of True West that they filmed.
Very good. Very,
I
very good.
I watched just scene one and I was hooked. I have watched, and it's not just work. I have watched it all the way through countless times just because you get to see these two brothers, which were essentially two, it was a whole that was split. So each one represents a personality of self. And to see all of that transpire on the stage or in the script, it's just like, wow, man. Like, if you don't connect to it, I don't feel like you've really lived life, if that makes sense. Because there's so much to connect to, and it's just I don't it to me it's great. It's a great show.
It is a really great show. I will also say, True West, for any of you who have not seen it, it is a very traumatic show, but at the same time, it is so incredibly funny.
Yeah, I looked it up and they were like, "This is a comedy," and then I watched it. I was like, "What's funny?" I mean, the only parts that I found funny was Lee's, outbursts and stuff like that. Other than that, yeah, no, it's pretty deep. you
Yeah,
know.
no, I think at least for me, the reason why I find that show funny is because the relationship between the two brothers, which I have a brother, and we have gotten into some very heated arguments before. And actually seeing that, it's not like True West where it's like on the verge of being violent all the time, but it is incredibly, not only, like I said, cathartic, but it's seeing that kind of argument and that kind of tension on a screen it's just funny to me.
Yeah,
It's just
it's
funny.
palpable, man. It's palpable. So
Yeah,
it's yeah.
it is. And I think also both True West and Death of a Salesman, I think there is one thing that both shows talk about that, once again, I wish was talked about more, and that is, at the end of the day, you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of the people around you.
Put your
Like,
mask on first.
yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is that with True West, it's a little bit different, but with Death of a Salesman, Willie Loman thought he was doing everything he could for his family. But the thing is, his own mental health was on the brink of destroying itself every single minute of the show. So he wasn't able to take care of his family, and he destroyed his relationship with his family by the end of the show. It's and then True West is one of those things. It's like those two brothers. They both thought that they were doing everything that they could given their situation, but it just wasn't dealt with in a healthy way.
No, not at all. Not at all. When you're throwing a typewriter across the room and hitting it with a golf club, I think you've gone past insanity at that point. Like, this is no longer just a regular argument.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And so, once again, we just got to hit the nail on the head here is that if you are going to take care of your career, take care of your friends and your family, take care of the things that are the most important to you in life, you've got to take care of yourself first. And that's why, once again, for me, my solace in terms of my time alone to take care of myself, it's when I go to the gym. It's like that, because every, as me and Jeremy have already mentioned, our days for the most part are filled up, and that time at the gym is really the space where we can just be in our own heads and take care of ourselves.
We can actually breathe, even though we're breathless. We can still breathe. It's that I don't know how long I'm usually in the gym, if I can last that long, about 2 hours. I don't know where you're at, but
Yeah.
that's 2 hours of me telling myself I can do it. I go pick up a weight and my body's like, oh, you mentally can do it. And it's you versus you in the gym. And that's why, I find so much sanctuary in the gym.
I completely agree. Me, it's a little bit different. My when I get I got to figure out what my goals are going to be for the next month, because I'm still kind of on a trajectory. But generally speaking, it's I'm in the gym for about 45 minutes. For all of you who don't know, I am 5'2". I do not have to be in the gym for a long time to get really good results. It's a blessing and a curse. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'm
But the
5'6", so
but then yeah, so Jeremy
I
knows.
get it.
Yeah, so but after the gym, my other sanctuary is going to my favorite spot, which is about a 20-minute drive from my house, and it's just a dirt trail that goes on for like 5-6 miles, and I still cannot get to the end of that trail yet, but it's like running half of it, and then just sitting, because where I stop is in front of this gorgeous waterfront. And so I'll just get there and I'll just sit there for like 30 minutes after I stop. And just, it is, and that's, I think we've touched on, it doesn't necessarily have to be the gym, but finding something to you that you deem to be your sanctuary so that you can be alone is critical. Like, this is not something where I'm saying, oh, it's something you might want to do. No, this is a medical assignment to you.
This is a must. It is a must.
It is a must. And having time for yourself, whether it's the gym, whether it's journaling, whether it's going on a long hike, those are the things that ultimately are going to make the difference. Yes, you can work yourself continuously to get to where you want to go, but if you don't give yourself some time to rest or some peace, like we talked about before, you're going to burn out, you're going to get discouraged, and you're going to quit. I think the statistic is 95% of actors drop out after the 5-year mark, or before the 5-year mark even gets there.
Yeah, I think
And
it's like 2 years or something like that. Like that's when a lot of people start dropping off, is real early or something. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, for those of you, if everybody listening wants to know, if you want to know a longevity story, I have been inside of the arts since I was 5 years old. That is 22 years. And in that time, I have broken away and completely separated myself from the arts a couple different times. And one of those times was for a 2-year time period. And it was the best thing I ever did for myself.
Yeah, but you had to take that time, because if you
Yeah.
didn't take that time, it would be you're just sitting there drowning with no results. And yeah, no, you can't do that. Can't do that to yourself. Not at all.
Yeah. And now that we're here, Jeremy, I'm just going to toss the mic back over to you. If you have anything you want to shout out, or anything that you're proud about, or any last minute advice, feel free, because the time is now yours.
Let's see. Shout outs and stuff like that. Everybody that's listening to this is welcome to come to Shreveport, Louisiana, December 9th, at 5 p.m. to watch my show if you would like. Um, Other than that, advice, man. Don't don't take this too serious. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be fun. And if you lose the aspect of fun, then you're not really helping yourself. they call it a play for a reason. You're supposed to play. You're not supposed to be like, well, this character's, a genuine asshole. I'm going to be an asshole all the time. No, no. Have fun with it. Do what you need to do with it. But remember, at the end of the day, it's all about fun. And don't let your mind be the bully that puts you under. Don't do that. Um, I am I have depression. I have anxiety. I'm suicidal. Um, I'm sorry that this is going to get kind of dark, but just letting you know. I,
It's fine. It's
I,
fine.
I will tell you, my son, he's 11 now. He was 7 when I put a gun in my mouth and contemplated everything that I thought that I have done. Was I good enough at this? Was I bad enough at that? And I finally realized I took the gun out and I needed help. And I voluntarily went into a mental rehab place. I was there for 2 weeks and it did a lot of good. And I'm not telling everyone to do that because don't do that. Um, but it did help. So the gym, therapy, therapy, therapy,
Therapy.
therapy. Like if that's what it takes, do it. Take care of yourself. And I will say this also, if you have somebody that you're talking to and you put up a boundary and they get pissed about it, you don't want them. You don't want them. You don't need them. Boundaries will show you who really cares about you and who doesn't. And in this industry that I am learning, it's tough, man. And there are going to be people that will be like, okay, hey, look, that was good, but could you do it again and actually sound like you're talented? Stuff like that will get to you, and it can, but you have to always remember they're under a time crunch, or they're wanting you to succeed, or you're not listening to what they're telling you, and they're trying to put it into different frame. It's all that. Sometimes you just have to take a break. Sometimes you have to take a beat. Sometimes you have to take a step back. Like Cody took, 2 years off. Sometimes you have to do that. But he learned in that 2 years, I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, that he loved it. And that's what you have to realize. You have to realize that you love what you're doing. Voice acting, acting, washing cars, whatever it is. If you are happy doing that, do it and let it fill you with joy, because there's so much toxicity in the world. We need all the joy that we can get.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And to add on to that, the one way that you can tell that you really love something and it is a part of who you are is if you take it away, how miserable you become. Because that is, I may have taken 2 years off of performance art and artistic things in general. The one thing I will say, and I do not wish it on anybody, I took the break. I was miserable. Like I got so burnt out from the arts and I was miserable there. So I backed off of it. It was nice for about a year. That second year, it felt like I didn't have a choice but to jump back into this. And in terms of after that, in terms of the opportunities I'm getting now, once again, when it comes to not looking at this as a short-term game to get short-term results, I came back to this in 2018. I did not see any of the multiple of positive things I have talked about on this podcast over and over again about until 2022. So that was 4 years until like major things started happening.
It's a long game.
It is. And
It
that's,
No, go ahead.
oh, it's, and another thing that Jeremy touched on just before we sort of close this out is just keep in mind that 99% of the time, you're not going to get a job. You're just not. However, most of the time, if not all of the time, it is not about how talented of a person you are, especially when it comes to film. When it comes to film, it's a certain look or the person casting didn't like how short you were, how tall you were, you looked like their ex, you looked like their mother. There is a million different reasons why you might not get a role. But most of the time, it's not about your talent. And I'm going to leave with one last thing. If you keep doing this and you keep focusing on just being the best you, the best actor that you can be, even if you don't get a role that you particularly auditioned for, if someone on the casting team liked what you did, they are either going to ask you to audition for another role in the production or talk to you about it. That has happened to me a lot. Number 2, they will keep your name in their books. And it might be, I can't say how long it will be, but if your name is in their books and they remember you and they've got another project and they want you to audition, there's a slightly higher chance that they may cast you for something. So just keep your nose clean, be a good person, apologize for your mistakes, and then just move forward and focus on yourself. Because it's the last thing I want to add. And I don't believe I've touched on this before. This career, there are lots of people we meet and lots of amazing opportunities that can be placed in front of you. But in terms of mental health, the number one thing you've got to remember is that 90% of the time, you are going to be alone when you're doing your work. And you have to be comfortable with that. And that is why, once again, therapy.
Therapy. I'm going to add one more, therapy. It's so important, man.
Talking with someone who is not a friend, who is not a family member, who is a professional who deals with this. And you got to find a therapist who knows how to work with you. And that's the other thing. Like, there could be an entire episode just based on therapy, but finding a professional who doesn't know your situation and looks at it from an objective point of view from the outside, it genuinely helps. And it is one of the things that can give you the tools you need to be happy when you are alone 90% of the time. And the other thing a lot of people don't like to talk about when it comes to this industry, because it doesn't seem fun and glamorous, you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices. And that might mean missing a lot of hangouts and get-togethers and holidays and everything else. But it all depends on what you want. For me, I'm the kind of person where where I want to get to and where I'm going to get to requires me to sacrifice 90% of the outside world for me to do it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I used to be a real big gamer. I was on Xbox every night playing, streaming. Yeah, not so much anymore. Even my friends are like, man, where have you been? I'm like, dude, I'm busy. One of my friends, by the way, bombshell, today's my birthday. Don't freak out. But one of my friends told me today, what kind of game do you want me to buy you? And I was like, none. I was like, I don't have time. I don't have time to play games. You have to prioritize. And sometimes subconsciously you prioritize the things that are important to you.
Yeah. And okay, first of all, happy birthday. That's a bombshell right there. But also, there's one other thing I want to get people prepared for if they're choosing to come into this industry. When you seriously start working on your craft and everything else, besides the lack of time, because I agree with you. I was also, when I was younger, big time, big gamer. But now it's like, I still enjoy playing, but I get to play like once for like 20 minutes every week. But there's also the fact that things like movies or anime or voiceover things that you watch or television shows that you watch, you will start looking at them with a different lens. And I will say that the joy for those things is still there, but it's not like it was when you did it before you started pursuing this career. Because everybody knows that when you watch TV or movies or everything else before you have an interest in this industry, it's basically just entertainment that you like sitting in front of to either kill time or whatever. When you get into this industry and you start watching those things, your eye becomes a lot more critical, and sometimes you cannot help it. And unfortunately, it does take a lot of the previous enjoyment you had. But what it does do is you get a newfound enjoyment because since you're studying what either the voice actors are doing or the actors are doing on screen or what the writers are providing and everything else, it gives you something that you can learn from, basically like a mini acting class that you can apply to your next audition or what you might write in your journal or what you might try to apply moving forward. I mean, that's where I am right now. I don't really watch, like, my only time that I will either watch TV, watch movies, or let's say play video games is every single week, because it's important for me. I try to go out and see every movie that I can that's released, because in terms of understanding this industry and studying actors and everything else, that's a thing that is a ritual for me. But I'm not doing it as a way to kill time anymore. I'm doing it as a mean to study other actors.
Learning. Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with that. As a matter of fact, my mom, she asked me not that long ago, she was like, do you watch movies the same? And I was like, no, I don't. And she's like, well, are they still enjoyable? And I was like, well, yeah, they're still enjoyable. But now I can look at them and be like, why did he make that choice? Why did that character make that choice? Why did they do this in the scene? And you get to look at it a little bit differently, and you're like, oh, they did this in the scene because it actually goes to this. Oh, okay. And it is, like you said, it kind of takes the enjoyment out of it, but it puts it in a different spot. So it's not, you're not really losing the enjoyment, but it's just a different kind of enjoyment.
Yeah, and that brings up the other thing. Guys, I'm just gonna tell you, once you start pursuing this career, your brain will never shut off. Like, it
Nope.
doesn't matter if you're watching something or trying to relax, your mind will never shut off. Here's a story from my end, and then, yeah, we'll absolutely wrap this up. I promise. But I tend to find, as established, I like reading. I like listening to audiobooks. The thing that happens though, I've noticed when I start listening to audiobooks, I will get 20 minutes in and then my brain will start working and I will not be able to focus. And then immediately it's like, I'm thinking of ideas of how I can make my business better.
Yep.
Which, once again, if you guys have been here for the whole show, you know, if you're getting into this industry, you are signing up to be a business owner, and turning your brain off, unfortunately,
It's not
it's not
part of it.
something, it doesn't happen. Even if let's say you decide to give yourself a vacation, you're going to want to work. Like, the fact of the matter is, take a few days off. Guess what? You can take a few days off and you will feel rejuvenated after those 3 days are done. You're still going to be thinking the entire time.
We went on our anniversary and my wife was like, no work. And I was like, okay. And then, like, I'm messing around on my phone, networking with people. And I thought I said no work. I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Me, it's like, originally I'm like, I should give myself weekends off. And then I noticed, but I can just work from the time I wake up to noon and then to have the second half of the day off.
Yep. Yep.
Literally.
Prioritize.
And the fact of the matter is, I really emphasize with this quote, Bryan Cranston said that he was never the happiest than when he was working. And that is something that, for me, I absolutely identify with. Like, whether that is work, like when I'm not on set or behind the mic, just thinking of ideas to how to evolve as a creative person. Like, it's all fun to me. Like, working constantly is super, super fun to me. And it's, I mean, that's another thing that there's a lot of important points. We should probably have a part 2 to this.
I'd be
But
down.
part of evolution and building a career and building a business and just pushing yourself forward is realizing that there are people in your life that you're just gonna stop talking to. And it's not a bad thing. It's like, those people will always be in your heart because they're a part of what got you here. They're a part of your life and a part of your story. But when you know the direction you want your life, your career, your business, whatever, you know where you want it to go. If there are people in your life, whether it's friends, family, or otherwise, that are not on that same trajectory and don't necessarily understand why you're pushing as hard as you are, unfortunately, most of the time they're never going to understand. And you may just have to, I don't want to say cut communication because I do not think that's the right word, but
Boundaries.
yeah, like have
That's great.
boundaries.
Yeah.
Like for me, I know there's a lot of people back home in Maine who are absolutely like that for me. But the fact of the matter is that when I go home to visit, we're going to be hanging out that entire time, basically. It's like, and the reason why you keep them in your contacts is because although they're not a part of your professional life now, they're a part of what made your life good back in the day. So unless they've given you a reason to completely separate them from your life, if you can talk with them and hang out with them later on down the road, even though they're not a part of your business world, there's not really a problem there.
No.
But feel free.
No, I was just going to say real quick. I had a guy when I lost my job. He found out that I was going to be a voice actor, and he flat out told me, he was like, "You don't need to do that. You've got babies. You need to go get an actual job. Don't no. What are you doing? No, don't do that." I cut him out of my life because I didn't need that. Still talk to him, but like you said, business, personal.
Yeah,
they are definitely separate.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I've had those kinds of interactions with people too. There are certain members of my family, not my parents, love my parents. They've always been super supportive, which I am incredibly grateful for. But I've had certain other members of my family who have looked right at me and they're like, you know, you want to be an actor and that's fine, but have you ever thought of just trying to do crew work or just trying to direct and everything else? And I'm like, you just don't understand. And that's not a negative thing. And I'm hurt by what you're saying, but it doesn't apply to me. Like, I know who I am. I know what I'm going after. And is it going to take a long time? Yeah. But how we're all able to stay in this for so long is because we don't care about the timeline. We love what we get to do every single day. And here's one last tip for everybody listening before we sort of close this out. If you take away the idea of trying to get a job when you audition for stuff and just do your job, which is you've got an audition, you have the opportunity for 5, 10, however long your auditions are, you have the opportunity to craft a character, to build out a world, to find out how that character operates in said world, and you get to do what you profess that you love doing. And as soon as you have sort of that shift from getting a job to doing a job and doing what you love in that job, that is also something that I find that does sort of take away the burnout aspect of things. It's knowing that you ultimately get to do what you profess you love doing every single day.
It's all how you frame it.
Exactly. And now, without a doubt, first of all, Jeremy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And without a doubt, I have no problem bringing you back. This was awesome.
Oh, yeah. You just let me know. I'm down.
Yeah. All right. And now, this has been the Artists and Emotions Podcast. I'm your host, Cody Alexander Curtis, and we hope that you've listened and been able to take something away from our conversation that you can bring with you on your own mental health journey. But until next time, I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you later.